Today's topic is all about cores and core boxes, how to make them. This is a very simple core, it's a round one. All that's needed to make it is a piece of PVC tube with a split down the middle so the core can be removed. But what happens if you need a core that shape? To turn this into a two-part core box, you'll see there is a parting line being drawn all the way around, and we have to make plaster casts, one of this half and one of this half. But before we can do that, we have to make a sand mould to prepare it first. To start the process off, we need to make one half of a sand mould. Then a sleeking tool is used to trim up the parting line. The dam walls have been made out of pieces of scrap wood, and now we can get ready and mix up some plaster. There's one thing I forgot to do. We've got to actually put some oil so the pattern will pull out of the plaster mould easily. A little bit of agitation to make sure it flows into all the crevices. The plaster has gone off. Now we can dismantle the mould. Just need to clean the sand off the mould. This half of the core mould has been cleaned up with the wire brush. It's still a bit rough, but I might have to smooth that out. The important thing to note is you'll see my parting line there, and then it disappears around here and around here. These edges need a tiny bit to take off to make sure that it doesn't stick when I do the other half. And this is how we trim the edges. All the surfaces have been cleaned up and the parting lines. Now the important bit that's come up, you noticed, tilted over a bit, these are aligning dowels. The idea is to make sure this is thoroughly lubricated so it'll separate, but also when you put the plaster on top, it will fill up those holes and will give a perfectly matching top half and self-align. Now, in case you're wondering what the sand's for, When I put the wooden walls back on again, they do not seal properly, and also where I've cut their lining dowels there are large holes, so if I pour the plaster in there it will leak out. Now we're ready for the next step. We're going to pour the plaster. Plaster has gone off, it's hard. We'll pull apart the mould. Here is the two halves. Now to separate them it can be very difficult because the plaster, even though it's got a lubricant separating compound, it still doesn't want to come off. And the ideal way to do it is to put compressed air along any of those joints for a while, and then all of a sudden it'll pop apart. Now I've done that but I didn't film it, but I just thought I'd tell you that. There's one half, just got to loosen the other half, it will pop out. There's the alignment dowels, I see it leaked a little bit there. And here's the other part, impression where it locks in. So we slip them together, perfect alignment. There's a core box ready to go. This is the core mix. Use a paddle like that to thoroughly mix the sand. Now we're going to add the core mix to the core box. Next thing to add is the core reinforcing rod. The core sand has gone off completely, it's gone hard. Now we've just got to carefully separate the two halves. There's one half, just got to give it a bit of a wiggle. Now it's finished. Before I put the core in, I'll go over and explain to those people who don't know, the extra piece on the end is what's called a core print. That positions the core in the middle of the impression, the mould, and that is the core print there. Now all we have to do is just put the coat and the top part of the mould on. I'm about to knock out the mould. We'll see how the core went. Here's the core print that's left over and the reinforcing rod. The castings come out perfect. Clean burnout. I don't have to pick out any of the old core sand. So it was a complete success. Here is some interesting facts about the melt. I used an A3 clay graphite crucible. It holds about 2.8 kilograms of cast iron, and that took approximately 35 minutes to melt.